Okay, hi everyone. Today is January the 11th, and I was going to, it's actually 0 degrees, so I don't need the scarf today. I was going to not be doing World Fair videos. I thought, okay, I did that one on Paris, that's good enough. But from a few comments, from a few emails that came in from it, and from a little bit of searching this morning, means I have to do another video on this. And I'm going to try to say what I need to say here and move on to some other topics. But the stuff here is so strange because I'm going to share with you a television series that is going to be starting with the World's Fairs. We've got a World Fair is going on right now, right? It's actually happening now in Dubai. And I'm going to show you a bit of that. I'm going to answer some questions that came, really good questions that came in an email. So I'm going to try to answer those for you. And the fourth thing I'm going to do is discuss for the third option to how these fairs came about, something I've been thinking about for 5 or 6 months, but haven't shared with anybody. But I'm going to. Okay, shall we begin our strange journey? Share screen. Okay, so we start with, and this was posted January the 10th, 2022, as you can see. And I think the story came out January the 7th. So, it's not like it's been out for a few days. Headline, will Keanu Reeves be the devil in the White City? Deadline and other news outlets are reporting that Keanu Reeves, from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures in the Matrix, is in talks to star in Devil in the White City, limited series being produced for Hulu. The show will be an adaptation of Eric Larson's best-selling 2003 nonfiction book that interweaves the true stories of renowned architect Daniel Burnham, struggling to build the 1893 World Exposition in Jackson Park, and the notorious H.H. Holmes, allegedly America's first serial killer, who launched a gruesome murder spree from his murder castle in nearby Chicago neighborhood at the time of the World's Fair. And there's the cover of the book. Okay, so why is this now? Why do they want to be presenting this book in the Chicago World's Fair now? And I think things like my book and my channel have had an impact on what's going on. The many videos of all the others, John Levy and Michelle Gibson and Campbell and Martin and everyone else who's been digging into these fairs and asking questions, even though we maybe don't have concrete answers necessarily, we've been asking really difficult questions. And I think it's actually reached certain levels where they know a lot of people have been influenced to be questioning the construction and the origin of these fairs. And the best way to shut that down is create a standard movie/TV series. And I guarantee a big part of this is going to be showing the very standard story of how all these buildings were constructed. Horse teams and dragging stones with, horses and pulleys and pulling trees out of the ground and staff and wood. And I mean, it's going to be as almost as big a lie as what the fairs were showing themselves historically. They're going to have another, by the way, the salt lamp is back, for those of you who are wondering. I turned it on, but it was just this big bright light behind me. As you see, if I actually turn the thing on here, I'll turn on the one that actually hits the lamp, and you see it's just going to be anyway. So the point being, I don't think it's what do you call it? It's coincidence that they want it to come out now. Also, that I bumped into through this very same page, World's Fair Chicago 1893, they're having an online innovation for this, in which that's not the one, in which they will be showing, I don't want to go there, in which they will be showing various reconstructions of the World's Fair. Now you can go to YouTube And I will leave all the links that I'm going to be talking about here below. And I'm going to try to keep the video to under 40 minutes as well. But this link here on YouTube, which is called, of course, we have to get through the stupid advertisements, but it's called the World Columbian Exposition Fair of 1893 UCLA 3D Recreation. So UCLA has done a complete recreation of Jackson Park, of which here, like, again, this just gives you another example. First of all, this looks like every reconstruction of ancient Rome I've ever seen. When you see the reconstructions of Rome, if you just snip this little piece and put it in the ancient Rome video, nobody would know. Nobody would have any difference. Maybe they would catch the ships there, which are supposed to be like Columbus's vessels. But most of this, they would have, it would seamlessly fit into the ancient Rome 3D reconstructions. Now, again, this is giving you a scale more than just the photographs of the size of this thing. And that's the manufacturer's building, by the way, to the left, where you're getting an idea of, look at the construction work. Even if you're dealing, we're going to talk about this, even if we're dealing with, really is all staff, plaster and wood, how much wood and plaster and materials do you need for this? I mean, get a look at this. Right, this is the back end looking from the government building back across the lagoon towards the main statue, right? And the manufacturer's building, again, just look at the size of the building. Just think of building that. Just building the thing for the manufacturer's building, just building that. Never mind the rest of the fair, just that. How long is that going to take you? So I'll leave the link there, and you can go and look at the whole fair. They've got 5 minutes worth on the fair. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2, here we are, Dubai, October 2021 to March 2022. The World's Fair is going on right now. It was supposed to be 2020, but was canceled because of, all the craziness. But it's back on. And no surprise, as World Fairs like to go, they like to show you where you're headed. And in this case, one of the big things is innovations and technology. So if we go to innovations and technology and you look into some of this stuff that's here, it's very strange. But we have artificial intelligence, which is all being shown at the UK pavilion. Why it's at the UK pavilion is the only place they're showing the artificial intelligence. The Explore the Future of Air Travel. Healthcare innovations. How humanitarian drone corridors are used to deliver medical supplies to remote communities. So I'll leave the link to this as well, and you can go to this thing here with Dubai, and you can go through all of the areas: architecture, sports, fitness, well-being, arts and culture. I'm just curious. I'm going to click on arts and culture and see what you could be. Of course, you have dancing type displays, a story of water, the rhythm that moves the world. Jamaican Pavilion, come to the music studio, spotlighting musicians, artwork, and producers from Jamaica. Visual perception through the power of imagination. So anyway, it's going on right now, just so you know. So we've got the stop sharing screen. We've got the 2021 or the 2020 World Exposition in the year that didn't end, happening now. Again, it's interesting about these dates. It was supposed to happen in 2020, but it's happening now. Olympics is supposed to happen in a month too. I'll be really surprised if the Olympics actually take place. But anyway, so I'm going to read you some questions. This came from an email. I'm not going to say who sent the email because I want to keep everything always anonymous. But this person sent some really good questions, mostly focusing on Chicago. And I just want to read those to you because I think they should be presented. Okay, his first question. 27 million people, that's what the numbers are supposed to have gone through Chicago. 27 million people in 6 months. I'd hate to think what would happen to my home if I had that amount of foot traffic, let alone in supposedly temporary structures. Right, 27 million people should be doing some damage, particularly if you're dealing with things that are plaster and wood. Isn't once in a while somebody going to slip and fall and potentially, if these are like movie sets, like some people are trying to say, they're just like movie sets that were made in the 1920s. But remember, movie sets are backdrops. Most of the time, most of that stuff is just meant to be in the background. It's not meant to be used. People are not supposed to be in the movie sets themselves, right? They're just facades. These are not facades. These are actual buildings that are housing and having millions of people inside of them. So again, doesn't somebody accidentally fall? Doesn't somebody slip and go through a wall? With regards to staff, did it not rain? Would not the buildings have fallen apart? Supposedly the fountains were made of staff too. They seem pretty impervious to water. There's 1,500 lavatories and 2,000 urinals, but no one talks about the plumbing, which is a really good question. Where did all the plumbing get laid? And remember, we're talking about, this is supposed to have been on a swamp, right? Jackson Park is supposed to be a swamp. So not only did they have to put these pilings into the swamp to hold up, remember, all these buildings are not on solid ground. That's also very clear. All of this weight is not supposed to be sitting on solid ground. It's sitting on a swamp, which is supposed to have been, on these wooden pilings. So where are you getting all the plumbing to move the water through what's a swamp, right? Chicago was illuminated by lights. How are the electrical wires, which are supposedly underground, protected from the swamp conditions? Okay, that's another really good one, because we don't see electrical wires in the photographs. If you look carefully, you see no electrical wires, but supposedly the electricity, I guess, now I haven't checked this out myself, I'm trusting this comment in the email, it might be wrong, but I'll trust the comment for now, that the electricity was being moved by wires underground. So again, we're dealing with how are they protecting underground electrical wires at the Chicago Exposition when they're not supposed to have plastic yet, right? You don't have, because normally you would wrap it in plastic. So what are they putting the electrical wires in? Is it in lead? Is it in copper? And again, just think of the logistical scale and the amount of work to lay out the amount of electrical wires you're going to need to cover the whole fair. How many millions of tons would 700 acres of buildings and roadways weigh? And all supported on wood pilings. That's what I just said. That you have to remember, this is on a swamp. And I'm not giving answers here. At this point, I'm just giving you the questions, right? How is all the weight being supported on the swamp just on some wood pilings? You saw the manufacturer's building I just showed you. That's all supported on wood pilings. How is that not on one point? I'm having enough trouble building I built a small skating rink for myself here on the farm. I'm having more than enough trouble just having built the sides and putting the tarp up and getting the water so that because when in an area it's not flat, right, all the water runs off, and if the tarp's not high enough on that side, it all runs out of the rink and I can't get the ice flat. That's like a 10 meter by 10 meter little structure with a small wooden thing around it and some tarp, and I'm having a mess of a time. But the World's Fair can sit all these buildings on wood pilings on a swamp. I mean, these are really difficult questions to answer. I get struck by the fact that the story relies on accepting. With the Chicago Fair, there seems to be a lot made of Tesla's generators, but they look like a display, not a functioning piece of machinery. From the photos, I can't resonate where the energy comes from. It comes into the turbines in the form of coal, steam, hydro, and where the electricity goes out. There seems to be no mention of how the electricity was created. Plastic wasn't invented until 1907, so how are the electrical wires insulated and protected from water? The lights were brand new technology, and there were no fires or short circuits. No mention of electrical panels or controls or even fuses. How would they have been coordinating all the countries and states to build for the fairs? It's as preposterous as 4 companies simultaneously creating a vaccine at the same time. Each of the separate government bodies with their own due process. How is that all coordinated? How would a city of 1 million people handle 27 million visitors? I mean, think about that. Now we talked about the last World's Fair that was in Canada, so I can kind of relate a tiny bit to that one. Vancouver had 500,000 visitors, and that fair was spread out quite large, right? The amount of hotels, food, transportation, security, everything that was needed for 2010 was massive, just to cover 500,000 people. 27 million people are supposed to be at the World's Fair. And we're going to see some pictures of some of these people coming up. And let's say half of them are from Chicago. Okay. And let's say half of them came more than once. So that still leaves us 6 million people coming from somewhere else. 5-6 million. Let's pick a nice number, 5 million. 5 million people are not from Chicago. The majority of them are not coming in just for one day and going home. Where are they staying? Where are you housing 5 million people over the course of 6 months? Where's the food coming from? The increase on the plumbing, the electrical supplies, the everything. These are all questions that are kind of just pushed aside. All the logistical stuff. It's like when I was in comedy, we had these comedians that would use props. And then we always called it shiny stuff, because if you just had the shiny stuff in front of the audience, often you didn't have to be very funny. The audience was mesmerized by the whatever little trinket you had on stage, whatever prop you were playing with, and so the audience kind of wasn't really paying attention to the jokes and what you're saying. They kind of just floated off, as opposed to like when you're just standing there, you and the microphone. The audience is listening to everything you say, and they're gauging every joke very, very carefully. So the presentation of the buildings and whatnot, that's actually shiny stuff. All these other questions of things like how were the wires insulated? How are they able to stay on the wood pilings and not collapse? These are all really important questions. Never mind the questions like my building contractors had asked me about how long it takes to actually just dig the ground to lay out all the canals and the waterways and the waterfalls, and then put the roads in. He's talking that's years just today with modern machines just to get that done. So I'm leaving that information. So that takes us to the last piece that I want to share with you here. And that is the questions of, were these things really built at all? And I know that sounds crazy, because I'm going to show you some construction photos again. And these construction photos, these are all from the St. Louis World's Fair, because St. Louis has really a ton of construction photos. If you go to the St. Louis Public Library, they have like 1,000 just construction photos of the fair. Really good resource. As well as I'm going to show you some stuff from a book. I wrote the information down somewhere else on another piece of paper that's not with me. I have to get up in a moment and get it. But the question becomes, it's pretty obvious that it couldn't be built like they say now. Now we're dealing with the two scenarios that I shared within my book, right? Which is, number one, a lot of the large buildings were from a previous civilization, this Tartaria story, or whatever you want to call it, this ancient world civilization, Greco-Roman, whatever. And the buildings were dug out and refurbished and repainted and cleaned up a little bit, and then they built the rest of the fair, right? That was kind of my initial reaction, is okay, they didn't build the whole thing because that's impossible in the time frame, actually impossible. So they must have found a huge portion of it, and then they just built the rest. But I was still saying, like for Chicago, they probably, in my mind, they probably built 500 of the 700 acres. I mean, that's still, even though some of the buildings are not huge, and some of the things on the Midway are large. Some of the state buildings and the country buildings, those would have been built under these theories. That's still a massive construction project. Then we've got the third theory. And if this theory has been pushing me more and more and more. If we're really dealing with a reset, and if we're really dealing with a computer-generated type simulation reality, and again, I don't want to say it is exactly like a simulation the way we think of it, or it is like a computer, it's just the only words I can use to, convey the idea that's in my head. And if someone like Michelle Gibson happens to be correct, she likes to use I understand the year 1850 as her year zero, kind of. Now, does that mean whatever happened before 1850? Because we know we had these bizarre events, right, from 1812 to to the comets, to the volcanoes, to the earthquakes, to the Mississippi changing course, to, you know, all this bizarre destruction listed in our history. And who knows what that's really linking to, plus all the city fires that could be way before 1850. The dates might be wrong. Okay, we've got all of this. We've got a period of destruction. So if we're looking at the real year zero, like has the simulation been in place for several hundred or several thousand years? Was the simulation started 1,000 years ago? Whatever. But it seems like 1850 may have been like a true reset. That it's like, whether the destruction happened by design or the construction happened by some sort of code in the game world, if the major destructions just happen willingly, if the major destructions happen by beings or forces within this realm that wanted to destroy it, whatever. The point being is, it seems like around 1850, a switch was flicked and a new version was rolled out. And so I've talked about the fairs being built or being designed or being presented as like a new propaganda tool, as a way of indoctrinating a new population. But it could be even greater than that. The fairs could have been, in some way, an energetic deposit into the realm where they're actually being programmed in. That they're not so much being built as in some parts of them might have been, we might have had construction on certain pieces of it. We may have had, you know, to make it look real to anybody that happened to pop by. But it may have been programmed from the external reality, from the next level of the matrix, and programmed in here, and just eventually click a button and you've got a whole bunch of it just in place. That's pretty heavy duty stuff to suggest that. And of course, I can't even say that's true. I mean, how could you prove that? But it answers some questions about these fairs, and it answers some questions about how cleanly they can be designed and how few mistakes happen in the whole process of making them. And I had some other comments from the last Paris video, as well as some other emails and things that came in that were, people were thinking in the same way as me, as a possibility. So that's why I wanted to share this with you, because I've been thinking about it for a while. And one of the first questions they asked, or someone came up with, was things like, when you look at the images of the people attending these fairs, they don't really look like tourists in many cases. Sometimes they do, but so often they look just lost. It looks like you literally just like picked someone up and just dropped them somewhere without them knowing it, and then all of a sudden they're just trying to figure out what the heck's going on. So we're going to start. I'm just going to get some images up here again while we're waiting, and then I'm going to go back to some more images for you. I just want to get them ready so I'm not constantly moving around and looking for them when we're... So the first image I'm going to show you is this one. So let's get the screen share happening so you can see what I'm seeing. Screen share, right, again, share screen, yes, thank you. So this photo. So this photo here is claiming to be the crowd on the plaza. These are from the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. Crowd on the plaza watching the Transportation Day ceremonies. And okay, the crowd just, I don't know. I mean, I've seen lots of crowds myself, you know, waiting for a parade or waiting for people to come by. And, you know, people are bored. They're waiting for something to happen there. But this one is really odd. There's a lot of images, there's a lot of faces here that are really, really odd. Why is this weird looking baby sitting like front and center? And they wanted to make sure they placed all these kids here. And I don't think it just, oh yeah, the kids get front row seats to see it because they're small or whatever. I mean, they've been placed here for this photograph for some reason. And I want you to go, if you're interested in this, go look at some photos of the World's Fairs and really look at the people, especially 1893 in Chicago, and the few that come up with people in the ones before that. They just look so out of place. Now, if these fairs have been running and the people have been, more in tune with the world, say for 50 years, they're going to be less. It's going to be less weird for them. But the earlier you can get photographs of people from the fairs, the more strange they're going to seem. Like people at the 1893. I should have had some from 1893 from the Columbian Exposition. Let's just throw that up, 1893, and we'll see if we get some photos. They look really out of place. The ones in Chicago, they look really, really out of place. And I'm just looking for ones where you may have people in them. Good images of people. What is this one? Let's try that one. You can't really see anyone in that photo. It looks like it's the fire department anyway. Women's building history. No, I should have had that prepared for you. But go look for yourself, and you'll find some really strange stuff. Now, here's some of the construction photos of the St. Louis Fair. And again, I'm just showing these to you because does this really look like a construction site? We've all passed construction sites many times of our lives when people have just been building a house, or they've been building a small office building somewhere in our town. I've never seen anything look so clean and so pristine as this. Look at this. Look at this. Like there's no indicate. There's some scaffolding on the building at the back, but that's not an indication of anything. And we got this one. Again, you've got a whole bunch of scaffolding on a building. You've got a completed building in the background, and you've got just a mud pit. Okay, thankfully, there's a little bit of materials nicely stacked up here. But again, be thinking, where are the bathrooms? Let's go back to this one here. You would be needing 50, 60,000 workers if the story is true. Yeah, there's only 4 or 5 guys in the photograph walking down the street, but you need 50,000 workers. Where are they going to the bathroom? You mean to tell me if somebody's working on this building, they've got to go so far away to the bathroom, there's nothing like close to where they are, to where they can go to the bathroom? How about for food supplies? How about for, where is any of that being generated? There's no indication that the standard logistics of feeding and looking after a workforce in the tens of thousands of workers are here. Same thing. This has just been placed here for the photograph. There's nothing here. You mean to tell me if they had they wanted to make the photos look nice of the construction, so the 500 bathroom area they moved? No, you're not going to move the 500 bathrooms and then move them back again. They're not there. How about this image? I like this image because it is showing the construction of the smaller structures, the smaller buildings, and it's showing that those are probably really constructed. Like I said, there's things that do give the appearance of being really constructed at these fairs. This is a perfect example of it. But you go back to this photo, the large building, there's no indication anything's going on other than perhaps scaffolding, painting, refurbishing. Construction of the 1904 St. Louis World Fair. Here's another really good image. Let's see if we can put this one this is from stlouistoday.com. Let's get a better image of this. And in fact, we can zoom in on it. So once again, you're dealing with, this is a gate. So there's some kind of, gated structure, complete building and nothing going on. Complete building, nothing going on. Complete building, nothing going on. Something weird here. This looks like a wall of some kind that's being built. We've got things that you would expect to be put up in 1904, that they would build things that look like this. Okay, there's a railroad track that's bringing in supplies, but again, no bathrooms, no indication of food supplies, no indication of garbage, of things that the building site in any way is operable, other than this little bit right here. These are things that just should concern people. There's a video here, and I'll also leave this one up, called The Construction of the 1904 World's Fair. And they have a ton of construction photos. So let's go back to that one. Okay. Again, you're seeing a lot of scaffolding in many cases. I don't know how that's construction photo. But the question becomes where, these are just, at this point, they're just photos of the fair we have to actually get. Okay. Artificial stone concrete machine company. Yeah, with some blocks of wood. We're not really seeing any construction. There we go. That's a small building, and that looks like it's being built. Can't question that. Nothing being built there. Nothing being built there. This is a quite simple log construction. Makes total sense that somebody in 1904 could build this. Wouldn't doubt that at all. What we're seeing, this photo comes up considerably again. The one building, the one wall, some stacks of wood, but no indication of where this is coming from. You're not seeing this coming from nothing and into zero. And again, you look really closely. Where's the surrounding? Where's the logistics? Now, these are supposed to be photos of before anything started, of them planning it out and deciding what trees they need to pull out like this. And again, so you're talking to get the Jackson Park site ready. Thousands of trees, right? Thousands of trees, and they're all being removed one at a time, like this. Think of the job. Think of that. What's that? A year, 2 years just to do that? And again, you're back to over and over again these kind of construction photos, which are showing you near complete. Okay, this is nice. This is a nice interior building that's been, like I say, I don't, if the building story is correct, we've got builds that did happen. Things were built. My concern is these buildings are not really being shown being built. We're just seeing completed structure. This is a perfect example. I'm going to pull the screen up full. Completed structure behind, some scaffolding up front, which you would probably do if you were painting or cleaning it up a little bit. That's all you would need to do, right? You don't, very little materials other than the wood needed for the scaffold. Think of how much wood the scaffoldings take. Remember taking a look at the photos. How much wood do you have to bring in just for the scaffold? Never mind the amount of wood needed for the supposed buildings. Think of the materials that are required for this. So I'm just going to leave the link. You can look though. Here's a nice photo. Let's bring this one up. Some steel trusses. I have no idea what they're planning to build here, but this is a nice photograph to go into deeper detail and discussion with. But again, look at the surroundings. Stacks of wood, okay, near the railway line. No bathrooms. No food supplies. One guy sitting under the shady tree. A woman and a guy looking at the site, and somebody else staring off. There's your workforce. So again, it starts to make me wonder, are both of those options wrong? Are both the options that they've been found and refurbished, is that maybe wrong? Is that the fact that it was built, is that wrong? That we're looking at an explanation that maybe the average person would not want to hear at all, that they've been programmed in. I mean, remember, you look at a site like Teotihuacan in Mexico. When you look at Teotihuacan from Mexico, from up top, it looks like a circuit board, right? It looks like what you would find inside a computer. So did the ancient Toltecs build their site like an ancient computer, as a understanding the principles of the universe and how things work, and that they were, in a sense, hacking into the mainframe themselves? Or was something like that placed in from the outside? Was this coming from, again, before this simulation started? So those kind of things were in the previous world and they were programmed into this world. I mean, I don't know, right? It's getting to the point now where the more you study the fairs, all that happens is the more confused you get. Like the first few months when I started this way back in 2019, I thought I was actually getting somewhere. I thought I was getting answers. I thought I was getting, never mind that I was destroying the narrative, which was happening. But I thought, I'm really starting to see, clear answers. And so the book were some of those answers that I thought were quite clear. But now, oh yeah, I forgot to look into this for you. Last thing, I have to screen share again. Well, I'll bring it up first. It's a book. And the book is very, very important because it's, did I not save it? No. Okay, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to go into the site for you and pull it back up again. It's through Study Love's, sorry, I'll get to the screen share one last thing. I'll let you go. Through Study Love's really good World's Fair site, if we go into 1904, and again, the mass of material that exists for 1904, and you have to go down to the bottom here, way down to the bottom to the books, the collections, the archives of the exposition, things that were written right like in 1904, 1905. No, this one's further up. It's in pictures, categories. It's not in video. Where did it go? There it is. It's in texts. Yeah, text. The book's written on the fair, particularly this one, Louisiana and the Fair by J.W. Buell, famed historian. And there's 9 volumes, all 400 to 500, 500 pages long. So we're talking 4,500 pages of information. These are histories of this part of the world. This is the one, Volume 4, Exposition Background. The further ones take you through the exposition. This one, Exposition Background, Volume 4. And I'm going to take you, I'll just show you the front cover of the book, that is from, or this was why it's at the University Library, but it's page 8. So this is more like a historical look of the World's Fairs, of the St. Louis Exposition. This is the image on page 8, full screen. So we've got a Roman guy standing at attention, maybe is like the doors of a temple or whatever. First of all, look at the background. There's like meteors or fireballs coming from the sky on a population that is, as you can see, just zinging by them and seemingly just killing the population off. This guy is not too concerned at all, zero. He doesn't even need to close the door or do anything. It's like some were trying to get in, and it almost looks like this person is like, merged with the ground. You've got materials just laying on the floor, and here we've got like materials here, like little coins and horseshoes, as if like people are like vaporizing, but not this guy. Why do you want this image as your introduction to the book about the fair? This is one of the strangest things I came across, and this book is all strange. The next one was, I think it was page 13. Again, I wrote these down on so next one is page 13. So this is the front plate to the book, like sort of the intro, like your intro page. So again, we've got these images of like art and writing, the muses, right? The 4 muses, very much in Greco-Roman style. We've got the look of the St. Louis Exposition in the background, but this is the cover page for the book, but wanting it to look very Roman, very Greek. And there's the 4 muses. But you've got the old style of technology at the top, and here's some of the new technology, gears and globes and telescopes, and that's coming out in this fair. Now, there was a specific paragraph that I wanted to read in here, and it's in, I think, this first one here, Expositional Displays of the Ancient Peoples. So they're talking about, giving the history of the primitive world. And it wasn't too far in. It was like 2 or 3 pages in. And I can like to try to read it if I can find it. But it was trying to, oh yeah. Originally, man, here it is. Very important, I think, sentence. It's in here. Again, this is part of the indoctrination process. Originally, man was peaceful because ambition was not a coincident of his birth. Because ambition was not a coincident of his birth. That's supposed to be us right now. We were born. But the increase of families created a necessity for some form of government. So it's already telling you that government is a necessity based on population and families. And as this, where did this go? Sorry. And as this required the establishment of a central authority, elevation to supremacy begot ambition, which in turn became parent to attendant evils of greed, avarice, and oppression. From these, strife followed a natural consequence, and war was the result. But in turn, the evil thus created and accentuated aroused the religious instinct, for evil, growing in intensity and assuming hideous aspect, provokes opposition at length, and in the absence of human power to punish wrong, appeal is naturally made to deity in whom power is centered. Thus it was that reverence and propitiation to the unseen but omnipotent protector became the reliance that developed a higher religion from pantheism to monotheism. Religion therefore reinstituted the rule of peace, which through failing to turn the mind of man wholly from the pursuit of war and ambition, yet measurably abated his savagery, and by gradually refining directed him in the use of those higher gifts which God had bestowed upon the race. Did you get all that? Really? That is the nugget of history of how we are in the world of insanity, according to the historian, the main historian of the day writing about the exposition. Man was peaceful, right? Ambition was not there. But increase of families created the necessity for government. And then he talks about, in turn, evil was thus created. So evil was only created after it was government and central authority, and elevation to supremacy. And that's what brought the evils of greed, avarice, and oppression. So according to him, he's trying to all of a sudden let you know there's no greed, no avarice, no oppression, no evil before there's government. And now government, if you're very understanding of these words, government is a word that is a synonym for archon, right? The archon in the ancient world means governor. So the whole idea of an outside parasitic force goes together with that word. And then he tries to claim that, but religion is overturning some of the evil. But you didn't need religion in the first place unless you have this. If you don't have this stuff, then you don't need the religion. Religion is just like, according to this, it's just a sort of like a balancing act with government. If you get rid of that part of it, the rest of it goes. And he goes on for pages upon pages of which it's showing primitive people's religion and deities, and he goes through Mexico and Babylon and Egypt and Greece and Rome, and discusses their religious connotations and how they were, what their festivals were and what their type of celebrations were, here through the Rig Vedas and the customs of India and Japan, and it goes on and on and on, detail. And again, we're seeing this is, if there's almost, I'm seeing like, and I was talking about you could write a book on Paris, right? You could write another book on the Paris Expositions. I think another book could be written just on that one series of texts on the 1904 St. Louis, Louisiana Purchase Exposition. If you could take Buell's book, kind of like I use Bancroft's book as kind of the underlying tone or the underlying presentation that I made in exposing the expositions, a lot of that was Bancroft's similar styled book, 1893. I did read pieces of Buell, but like I say, it's 5,000 pages long, and you only have so much time, right? But again, if somebody decided to just, I'm going to go through those 9 chapters, and again, I'll make sure you can, it's on the Study Love website. I'll put the link below to his World Fairs page, so you have that, and you can go into 1904 text. It's right there. You can read the whole thing yourself if you want to. And again, it's another thing, somebody should just go through that book and present the presentation. Just, this is what this book in 1904, the main book on the fair and the history of it, is presenting. This is the message that they want to have come out, and it, synthesize it into like a 150-page book so that somebody doesn't have to read 5,000 pages. You've read 5,000 pages for them. I think that would potentially tell us a whole lot too of what's being generated, what's the mental state, what's the level of programming that the fairs are putting out there. Okay, I'm stopping there because I just need to stop. I don't think I'm going to do a World Fair video for a while. Now I want to get some spiritual warfare and some Plato's Cave warfare done. Plato's Cave videos done. And get into some other topics I've been meaning to present. But this stuff was just, it was fresh. Like the Keanu Reeves thing was like today, just bumping into a couple of things. I was going to do a short little video, and here's Keanu Reeves, here's this virtual reality thing. Well, let's look into Dubai and see what's going on there. I had to kind of just present it to you because it was so fresh. But I'm going to take a break. I'm going to step back from it because, again, I think we've got a lot of stuff we've got to be dealing with in our world. I bumped into some, I don't want to call it prophecy, but some suggested insider information of how 2022 is going to look. And it, we should be mentally getting ready for what 2020 year 2 is going to look like. I did an interview. I can't remember the name of the channel, but I'll also put that down a couple of days ago. It was also an excellent interview. And I wound up talking a bit about the Georgia Guidestones in there and a few other things that, not me, the person interviewing me, had taken a trip to the Guidestones and was sharing some really neat stuff about them and his trip and his experience. We talked about a whole lot of stuff in that video, in that interview. So that's below. I'm on with Campbell again tomorrow morning. So, it usually takes Campbell 2 or 3 days in the Spiral Up channel to get that done. I guess that's it. Thanks for all the information that keeps showing up in this case, the really good questions that arose about the World's Fairs from that email, because those are things that we can't answer right now. But I'm going to stop the World Fair stuff now for a while and move on to these other topics. So thanks for being around. Thanks for sharing the journey with me. Stay clear, stay strong, stay courageous, stay focused with your whatever close family members and friends that are still your close family members and friends that haven't pulled away from you. And last thing, next Monday is January 17th, which is, of course, a key day in the Rennes-le-Château story. So somewhere in the course of the day, I don't know when, I'm actually going to take some kind of like meditative journey and see if something comes up, because everything in the Saunier story happens on January 17th. So if anyone else is interested, do the same. Do a little meditation on that day yourself. See if some piece of information about this, especially if you've watched a lot of the videos in the Southern France story, just go clear. Stay still for 15, 20 minutes and see if something comes up. And then I'll post a video. I'll post up the evening of the 17th, 9, 10 o'clock my time. And then if anybody else has anything that's happened for you on that day, great, you can post that up too, and we'll see if anything comes to us. I mean, we have to try to be together and share as much as we can as a unit. Now, it's an individual journey, of course, but it's good to share our journey as much as we can while we're going through it, and share what we find out. So thanks for everything. Links will be below, and we'll maybe catch you before Monday. If not, Monday the 17th will be something about whatever shows up from that day. Cheers.